All right, we'll turn to the open meeting tonight, and we'll kick things off with our pledge. Ms. Acosta.
And the pledges this evening will actually be led by our Lovejoy High School students. Mr. Wheeler?
But Mr. Wheeler, principal at Lovejoy High School. We are going to take over the pledges today. We have two young gentlemen with us here today, Cole Bailey and Maddox Bailey. Cole and Maddox are seniors at Lovejoy High School, and you'll be hearing a little bit more from them later today. And they also were not prepared to do this, so give them some grace.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible. Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may now be seated.
Well, to not be prepared, you guys did a great job. Thanks, gentlemen. All right, recognitions tonight, introductions of new hires. Ms. Koenig.
Yes, I'm going to ask Ms. Erin, will you come up and introduce our new hire and tell us a little about her? Ms. Perkins?
Yes, thank you. We are so excited to introduce tonight the new coordinator of the Lovejoy Child Development Center, Ms. Cindy Daniels-Dixon. So Cindy has previously served as a classroom teacher. She has been an early childhood consultant and trainer. She has worked with Region 10 and also in Florida. She has been the coordinator of the Family Literacy School in Plano, and most recently served as a grant specialist with the Texas Workforce Commission in pre-K grants. So we are super excited to have her. She has over 25 years of experience in early childhood, and so we just are very excited about her expertise and what she's going to bring to make the Lovejoy Child Development Center an even better place for our kids to learn and grow. So she is with her family tonight, her husband Scott, and then her kiddos Sophia and Sam.
Welcome.
No, yeah.
All right, next item, public comments related to August 19th agenda items.
No comments this evening.
Thank you very much. And if you would, please bow your heads in prayer with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be in service to our district, our kids, and our families. Lord, I lift up our deliberations tonight, our thoughts. Be with those that can't be here, and just bless our actions and our thoughts with your will. In Christ's name, amen. All right, notification items in your board package, new hires and public information requests. Unless there's any questions, those are notification only. Item 10 tonight is the consent agenda. If anyone would like anything pulled for review on the consent agenda, now would be the time. And if not, we would consider a motion to approve as presented. So any items we need to pull?
move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
So move to adopt, approve as presented is Ms. McLaughlin. Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 11, tonight's celebration of learning. Dr. Tinsley.
Wait a second. It's like skipping over it.
Good evening. I am excited tonight to have our high school come forward and Mary Mullen. So Mary Mullen's our Director of Secondary Education, Assessment and Accountability, and Justin Wheeler, our high school principal, as well as some teachers and also students tonight. As you recall, we did some work last year studying our current senior project and had a committee of teachers and students were involved in that too. We did a survey and got some input about making some changes to our senior project. And so tonight we're going to elaborate more on the progress that we're making and also bring forward a great example of what that might look like. And you're going to hear from some of our students tonight too. So I'm going to hand it over to Mary.
Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Good evening, board and community members. Thank you for having us here today. Before we get to the piece about the changes that have been made, I would like to tell you a little bit of history about the senior project. So our high school was established in 2006, and the first class to actually graduate was the class of 2010. Part of the graduation requirements was to complete a senior project. And what that entailed of was the spring of their junior year, juniors would submit a letter of intent, which was a proposal of what they would like to complete for a senior project once that year was over, and then they had the senior year to complete it. They would submit it for approval. Once it was approved, then they would work on it, and what the work also involved was a presentation at the end, which gave a summary on a description of what the project was all about. They had a choice of presenting in December if they were ready, or they could wait until the following spring and present their work. So fast forward 10 years, and we all know 2020 was when the COVID virus came out full force, and there were restraints on what presentations could look like. So students were required, instead of making an in-person presentation, to create a recording of their presentation to submit. In the spring of 2020, the Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee was put in place. One of the subcommittees of the larger committee was the Graduate Profile Committee. One of the strategies that came forth during that committee work was to look at and make recommendations about the senior project. So what we did was we got together a committee, and the committee was made up of campus administrators, district administrators, counselors, and teachers at the high school campus. And the first thing we did was create a survey that went out to the students, asking about what they thought about the senior project, if they had an opportunity to make any changes, what would they change, what would be things that they would like to keep, what do they like about it. We also sent out that same survey to community members to get their input. Taking together that feedback, plus the recommendations from the Strategic Planning Committee, we put together a plan. And then now here in this past summer, we had teachers, including Mr. Mueller here, that worked on what we call almost curriculum documents to be used to implement the new senior project requirements. So that brings us now to the fall, where the teachers have received professional development on implementing the new requirements. And we have a hybrid in place for this year, our seniors are actually completing a project, but we do have a hybrid in place for moving forward and beyond, which Mr. Mueller will speak a little bit more about. Here is the actual strategic target and the strategy that the Graduate Profile Committee came up with. And if we had to put a definition to what the senior project is, it's really a culminating high school initiative that assesses and demonstrates the students' knowledge and abilities in preparation for graduation. The senior project supports the students' abilities to write, speak, acquire and use knowledge, solve problems, and apply a variety of skills, including time management and task analysis. And now Mr. Mueller will tell you about the revisions.
Hello, my name is David Mueller. I teach AP US History and AP Human Geography at Lovejoy High School. Over the last 8 months or so, we've begun working on revising the senior project and really focusing on the career and college readiness skills as well as the service aspect and really giving our students opportunities to mentor and to kind of pass the torch from our seniors to our freshmen and to really give them very structured learning environment on what community service looks like, emphasizing that that should be in our community. And then as they become juniors and seniors, upperclassmen, we're turning that over to them to kind of take ownership of them and training them on how to communicate that and teach our freshmen and our sophomores on what that looks like. It's been a really exciting project for us. And I will say that the survey that Mrs. Mullen mentioned really was foundational. We got those ideas from our community. And with that, we were really able to design this new structure for the senior project. So the senior project is a 4-year process now that students go to. We have removed some of the outside of school requirements. We've now embedded that into the school day. We are really excited to have worked with the English department to embed a lot of the research that students were doing into projects that the students were already completing, so we're kind of double dipping there. The English department has been really helpful to us to achieve a lot of these objectives and skills that we wanted students to learn. Social studies courses such as world geography are also reinforcing some of these skills. And we are also now using a system that we already had in place at the high school. We're using our Leopard Time homerooms to encourage further development and focus on our college and career readiness skills as well as the community service aspects of this project. We have redesigned homeroom slightly so that teachers now will move up with that same homeroom for all 4 years. So they will stay with that homeroom, students will stay with the homeroom teacher for all 4 years, allowing that teacher to invest invest in those relationships a little bit more intentionally. And they will get to see every stage of this senior profile. Really what I want to talk about is what that looked like for teachers. We've taken a lot off of students' plates as far as the outside work that we were asking of our seniors that is now happening during the school day. And really then we were able to look at how can we make this and design this to also honor our teachers and their time. So this is the 4-year glance. We took this and we created a scope and sequence of about 11 to 12 lessons throughout the year. Each lesson was designed and written out completely. We provided teachers with a timeline of how much we thought each activity or bell ringer would take. We also provided the resources, and then we created grade level sandboxes in Google Classroom for each of the grade level homeroom teachers to have access to, so they do not even have to create the post for students to access or the slides, anything like that. That is all done. With the access to the sandbox, they are pulling over the resources into their homerooms, and the students will have immediate access to the resources for that lesson. These lessons are largely focused on career and college readiness skills. So we're practicing interview questions. We're exposing them to resources on how to format their resumes. What is a group interview? What is an elevator pitch? We are giving our seniors opportunities to mentor and meet with our freshmen to teach them what community service should look like, how to meet the hours needed for each grade level year. For the freshmen and our sophomore, most of those hours are completed in our Leopard Time homerooms. They have opportunities to do community service projects with their peers and to work together towards serving our community, which we're very excited about. This project as a whole will be kind of documented, and students will have an ability to reflect on their progress through a digital portfolio. The digital portfolio we're using is called Bulb, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. Sorry, I got ahead of the slides. So these are the scope and sequence I walked through, and then as well as this is what teachers have access to. It's by grade level, and then the dates of when we're going to have homeroom and when that lesson is going to take place is clearly communicated to all teachers at the beginning of the year. When they click on those hyperlinks, they will have access to the lesson plan and the resources, and then as well as the sandbox to pull those lessons over for the students. This is what the lesson plans look like. Teachers are provided with the resources. The resources in that right column, those are there to help teachers see what students will have access to, but we do not require teachers to take those and then create a new Google Classroom post. The posts are already created for teachers. They have to look over the lesson plan and then pull the post over, and it is done. So the Bold Portfolios is a process that we're learning how to use and how to teach students how to use it. It is something that they are going to be taking with them when they leave Lovejoy High School. They will continue to have access to it. And I had an exciting opportunity in the first 2 days of teaching the students how to use this. The students were tasked to create an About Me page. And the instructions at a time, as we were phasing this into place, teachers have been, spoken to about how we are all going to work together to make this better throughout this year. This is not an end place. This is a starting place, and we're really excited to improve this throughout the year. So as we looked at this, students were a little bit confused about what exactly should be on the About Me page, and they thought that they had to sit down and finish something today. Most of my students were coming up to me as I had one-on-ones with them, and they've had a couple of little things about things that they're interested or hobbies they like. Many of my students would say something simply of, I like to hang out with my friends. And in those conversations, I was able to talk to these students and explain to them that all of those hobbies and skills actually have a purpose and a place in preparing them for college or for a career. And we took that example of, I like hanging out with my friends, and we actually had a discussion about how that is actually a core value that they've developed. And that's actually a value of community. And being able to help them rephrase that into terms of collaboration or community is actually our step to help connect them with what they're doing in their everyday lives to what colleges and careers are looking for in their college application essays or in their interviews. And so we're really excited to get to teach students how to use their baseball private lessons or their band rehearsals and rephrase that and shape that into a way that will be very appealing to their future. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wheeler.
Good, and thank you, Mr. Mueller, for all the work that you and your team have done to respond to the community. I know in addition to your classroom responsibilities, this is an easy undertaking, so we appreciate your time. Thank you. And good evening again, members of the board, Superintendent Cordell, and community members. I have the honor today of introducing Cole and Maddox Bailey. So Cole and Maddox, if you can come up and join me. So within my first month of being a principal at Lovejoy High School, I got a package in my office. And I opened this package, and within the package, the first thing I see is confetti. And I didn't tell you boys this yet, but if you know nothing about me, I am not a fan of confetti. So I start taking all the confetti out. It's all over my office, and immediately I'm thinking, these vendors that are trying to sell me something. And then I look deeper into it, and I pull out a book, and I see that it's the authors are Cole and Maddox Bailey with a personalized note welcoming me to Lovejoy and introducing themselves as seniors at the high school, and instantly my heart was full. So I'm going to allow Cole and Maddox to share some of their learning, and we felt like tonight when we start talking about these service projects was a great time for them to highlight their unique skills. So I'll pass it off to the two of you.
Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Wheeler. I'm Cole Bailey, a senior at Lovejoy High School, and this is my twin brother, Maddox. Our family lives in Lucas, and we came to this district as Lovejoy scholars in the 4th grade so we could attend Puster Elementary. Eventually, our family built a house in the district, and we've been here ever since. Last year, one of my favorite people who worked in the district left. Miss Emma was part of the maintenance crew at the high school. We would talk every day after school. I was sad when she told me that she was leaving her job. She told me that a lot of kids were mean to her at the high school, which made it really hard to conduct her duties. What does this have to do with volunteering? A lot. I share this story about Miss Emma because I know how hard of a time it is to clean up after other people. One of the hardest volunteer opportunities Maddox and I have done was street side showers, where we worked as shower valets. The mission of street side showers is to offer hope and help to restore human dignity and to the homeless in the form of a hot shower and personal hygiene. As shower valets, Maddox and I scrubbed the shower stalls and cleaned the toilets after each use so guests could have a clean bathroom to use. It helped us appreciate what the maintenance crew does for us at the high school, and also to make an effort to do what we can to help them out by picking up after ourselves at the school. The truth is that we learned so much from volunteering. We used power tools for the first time building a wheelchair ramp at Texas Ramps Project. We took food orders, bus tables, and were food runners at Community Gardens Kitchen. We learned the proper way to plant trees because of Texas Trees Foundation. We learned about different medical conditions playing with special kids at Raise a Light. The things you learn from volunteering really can't be taught in books. This is what we hope kids or parents who read our book will get motivated to make volunteering a part of their regular lives. Before we go, we brought extra copies of our book to give to you. We know that you're volunteering your time to make sure that the students in our community all get the best education possible. We appreciate it. Thank you for having us tonight and allowing us to share our book, and to Mr. Wheeler for inviting us to speak tonight.
Thank you all so much. That is remarkably impressive. And I actually had the opposite reaction that Mr. Wheeler had. I like confetti, but even more so, they had gummy treats in there, which I'm a big fan of. But it was a big cognitive dissonance when I received the box with your book in it, because I too thought it was a vendor that was trying to sell us something. And then I recognized the picture of you two, and that you had written this book. And what is so incredible is you have not only had such a profound impact on others through your service, but through this book, you are going to impact countless others that are going to learn from your example. And so we just want to thank you for living the core values of Lovejoy ISD and just doing an exemplary job of setting the bar for our senior projects. It is remarkably impressive, and we are grateful.
Mr. Mueller, Mrs. Mullen, why don't you come up also, because you've been a big part of.
appreciate all that work, very impressive and much needed, and so we're excited to see the fruits of that labor and certainly excited about what we saw tonight. So thank you for all of that. Item 12 tonight is to consider and act on the 24-25 tax rate adoption. Mr. Willman?
Good evening. After that last celebration of learning, I turned to Mr. Percival and was wondering how I could follow that up with some great tax rate adoption information. So thank you to the gentleman. Yeah, absolutely. I can find some confetti and some gummies. Okay, so good evening. So tonight, we're going to present on the preliminary maximum compressed rate that was released earlier this month by TEA and the updated tax rate for the 2024-25 school year that is up for adoption tonight. All right, so before we jump into the actual tax rate, I wanted to share some key terms that you'll notice throughout the presentation, but also notice that on some of the required documents that are in your board book that we will have to post online that was shared and completed by the Cullen County Tax Assessor's Collection Office. So the first one is the proposed tax rate. So as we've discussed throughout the budget adoption process back in June, this is just the proposed tax rate that we use to finalize the 24-25 budget. And this rate is just calculated based off the prior tax rate that we receive until we receive the new maximum compressed rate, which was released earlier this month in August, which leads us to the adoption of the tax rate that was released, which is the adopted rate. But then you also find in the documents that they use the term the no new revenue rate. So this essentially is a tax rate that would produce the same level of tax revenue in 2024 from 2023 when applying the same property taxes from both years. This goes without any respect to how much funding we would receive per the state funding formula for schools. All right, so our tax rate that we're proposing tonight, there's going to be two rates. As we've mentioned during the budget process, we have the M&O, the maintenance and operations, and then the INS, the interest and sinking. But within the two rates, mainly within the M&O, there's two components to what make up that rate. So the first one is going to be the maximum compressed tax rate. So this is determined by TEA, and this is based off of a levy of maintenance and operations taxes to receive the full amount of a Tier 1 allotment. And then we have the opportunity to increase that not to exceed 17 cents, which is the enrichment tax rate, which are the enrichment pennies. That's broken down into golden pennies and copper pennies. So the first 8 pennies are considered the golden pennies, and these pennies are not subject to compression and then also not subject to recapture. And then the final 9 copper pennies, they are subject to compression and to recapture. So of the 17 enrichment pennies, Lovejoy ISD currently utilizes and the community approved the 13.83 cents. And then the final is the debt rate, which is our interest in seeking, and that's the rate that's used in order for us to cover our debt payments, our principal and interest payments. Okay, and just to share the overall process again, as we mentioned throughout the budget adoption in June, we used the prior year tax proposed rate, which was the 23 tax year rate. And then in July, the end of July, Cullen County certified the 24 taxable property value, which we then submitted that to TEA, which determined early this month the maximum compressed rate. So what we're seeing with the maximum compressed rate is that it did go down from the 61.92 cents to 61.69 cents. And with that being said, when you add our 13.83 cents to that maximum compressed rate, you'll see that our tax rate for the 24 year changes from the $1.25.75 cents to the $1.25.52 cents. What that reflects and what we're required when we hear the no new revenue tax rate, we're supposed to indicate that the current tax rate effectively represents a 8.4% increase, and that's just comparing the adopted tax rate to the no new revenue tax rate. So when we look at the historical tax rate for the district, we can see that since 2018, we've been on a gradual decline in the tax rate, and that's mainly due to the implementation of the maximum compressed rate. But we are at the lowest rate in over 24 years since 1999, when the tax rate was 1.65%. 1.65. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
So this is good news because our tax rate is dropping.
Absolutely.
Is that true?
Yes.
So this is another one of those beautiful provisions in the Texas Code that requires us to have language stating that we're doing a tax increase when we are lowering a tax rate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so the rate that we are going to adopt today, that's being proposed, not implying that we will vote any such way. The rate that's being proposed today is a decrease from what was ever on their tax statements our individual property owners would have received.
The rate would be a tax rate, a tax decrease year over year, yes.
So the no new revenue tax rate, that comes up frequently from parents. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's applicable to municipalities versus school districts?
Great question. So from a school district perspective, our revenue is determined based off of, versus municipalities, based off our enrollment, our average daily attendance. And the taxes that are collected help fund that. So it's not as easy as saying that we can maintain the same level of service with the same revenue year over year if our enrollment is increasing, or even if it's decreasing, because we're going to have either decreased cost or increased cost. Does that answer the question for you? Yeah.
Any further questions? So the tax rate is being proposed for adoption tonight, and the tax rate is 1.2552 combined. You have the slide showing the breakout of those, interest and sinking being 0.50, and MMO being 0.7552. That is a decrease from the previous year, as Julie accurately stated, and then we do state that that's an increase over the no new revenue tax rate.
Correct. And there's specific language that, as you're making a motion, it is in the executive summary of your board book that needs to be required. It just says, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.2552, which is effectively a 8.4% increase in the tax rate.
So with that, I'd consider a motion if no one has any further questions or deliberation.
Happy to read this confusing and misleading language. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.2552, which is lower than last year, which is effectively a 8.4% increase in the tax rate. Do I have to read the second sentence too? This ordinance, resolution, or order setting this year's tax rate does not, no, do you have to read that part?
Yeah,
Oh, I
no,
see.
you're not-
And that the
part.
accompanying ordinance be passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees.
Second.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin, thank you. Second, Jason James, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. All right, next up is consider and act on the 24-25 superintendent goals. Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. President and Board. The goals are on page 100 of your digital board book. You have obviously seen these before because you were an important part of the process of developing these proposed goals, as was the leadership team We also reviewed district qualitative and quantitative data as well. These goals are very important because they give us the opportunity to focus our efforts, focus our resources, and provide accountability for work in these areas. You will notice that this year we have organized them a little bit differently and have organized them into 4 areas, 4 focus areas: safety, people, learning, and innovation. The reason we chose to do that is we all know that whenever you have a number of goals, you have a lot of information, it can be very difficult to keep them in front of people all of the time and continue to have a focused effort. But we as leaders have been focusing our work. As a matter of fact, we used it in a leadership meeting today where we organized our work this morning by safety, people, learning, and innovation to ensure we are continuing to impact in those areas. You will also notice that we have made a direct connection to the Lovejoy 2030 strategic plan and where we are walking those priorities forward. There are also measures of success on the document. I won't go through and read all of those since that has been publicly posted for everyone, but I will go through the goals in each of the 4 areas. So the first goal is safety being support a safe and secure environment for all students and staff through an emphasis on additional training and proactive measures. In the area of people, recruit, retain, support, and develop effective personnel. Learning, promote Lovejoy ISD's continued commitment to academic excellence. I will go over into the measures of success on there and note implementation of district curriculum and resources. We have had a lot of effort in that area. We will be doing a future presentation for you on that, but I will note one area that you just saw tonight is the senior project, and us wanting to make sure if we have something in place that is a priority learning opportunity for our students, we want to have clear resources available for our teachers to utilize and make that as easy as possible. And then in innovation, number 4, foster a culture of continuous improvement and creativity.
Questions for Ms. Cordell?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment on all 4 focus areas are critical, but I think especially the focus area number 2 around recruit, retain, support, and develop effective personnel, as those are the closest, teachers are the closest to the classroom. And I look forward to seeing the updates and the progress throughout the year.
Just want to thank Superintendent Cordell for the tie-in to the goals to our strategic plan. I think that helps lay out an intentional path for how we are implementing a thoughtful and thorough plan to continuously improve the district. Thank you for that. One question I had for you is, of course, this has been an iterative process for many years where we've had goals every year. And in the past, you've had goals around partnering with parents and partnering with staff and partnering with students. I know those continue to be priorities for you. I just wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about those things that you're going to continue to do.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. So obviously, everything we are working on is not on this document. It would be impossible. It would actually become the district improvement plan, the campus improvement plans. So we have a number of guiding documents where we list priorities, where we list our effort. Again, great example tonight, the senior project. You don't see it specifically listed on here, but obviously a priority that we are moving forward. So those commitments to our community and having community engagement opportunities continue, as do those opportunities with our students that you mentioned as well.
Other questions? If not, I'd consider a motion to approve the goals as stated.
I'll make a motion to approve the goals as stated.
So moved, Mark Wheelis. Second, Amy Smith. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Consider an act on the 24-25 School Health Advisory Council resolution and membership. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. I want to just go over just a reminder of what School Health Advisory Council is, or better known as SHAC. It is a school board appointed advisory group. We are required by law to have at least 6 members. We have a little bit larger committee than 6 members. Majority of those members are required to be parents. The areas that they do focus on is that it's really on fit and healthy and ready-to-learn opportunities for our students. And there are some legal requirements that the SHAC is required to make. They're serving an advisory role and make recommendations to the board. So something that we're going to lift up tonight regarding the resolution is that in Senate Bill 9 and House Bill 1525, that is through our board policy EHAA local, that the SHAC is charged to determine the process for regarding the adoption of curriculum materials regarding to child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking, as well as instruction on the prevention of abuse and addiction to fentanyl. So that is what the resolution involves tonight. And then also, just a reminder that the SHAC is required to hold at least 2 public meetings. We hold more than that during the school year. And we do make recommendations we'll be bringing back to you regarding these curriculum materials at one of the upcoming board meetings. So the action that I'm asking you to do tonight is to take action on the adoption of this resolution, and then also the committee membership and the members that are being recommended. Morgan Buchek, parent. Melanie Dykstra, parent. Dr. Shay Joyner, parent. Mackenzie Miller, parent. Michelle Wilde, parent. Allison Yount, parent. Angie Lindblom, staff member. Carly Littlefield, staff member. Stephanie Krantz, staff member. Tiffany Glover, staff member, and then myself as a staff member. And then we also do involve students in the advisory role, and we try to select students from our school health, our health science students, and where we have representation with a sophomore, junior, and senior. So there are meetings that we do bring them in an advisory role. So I'm asking for your approval for the committee membership and the resolution. Are there any questions?
No, but I do want to just proactively thank those parents that are serving on this committee and for the additional public meetings for transparency and input. So I appreciate that very much. Any questions for Dr. Tinsley? If not,
Maybe a slightly related question. For the coming school year, will the district continue its practice of requiring parent opt-in for sexual health education?
Yes, thank you for bringing, that's a great question. We will be continuing that. There was a change in that in some, where that was, now it's not required, but as a district, we do believe that we need to continue. It's an opt-in for human sexuality.
thank you for clarifying that, Julie. I think any other questions? If not, I'd consider a motion.
Move that we adopt the 24-25 School Health Advisory Council resolution and membership as presented.
So moved, Jason James.
Second.
Second, Jeff Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, enrollment update. Ms. Koenig.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to move right into enrollment. I know we've been in school now for about 8 days, and our enrollment is stabilizing here. So if we go through this, just wanted to give you some background information of where we were previous years, first day enrollment of 22-23, you know, how we started the year, kind of what the 5th day is. And I always look at the 5th day just because it gets us in, you know, especially when we start midweek, and gets us in there, and then the last day of enrollment. So as you can see, this year our enrollment is 3939 is where we are on the 5th day of enrollment. We started a little bit higher, then of course we have withdrawals. We also, you know, waiting for kids to come back, that type of thing, some that have moved out there. So that's where we are. And you can also kind of look at from the 5th day to the last day for 23-24, we didn't add a lot of students, about 9 students there. So that is where our enrollment is somewhat headed, but just historically gives us an opportunity to review that. Okay. Looking at that, so our last day of enrollment last year was 4025, and of course this year it's 3939. We're about 40 over of what we had projected. We had projected 3899, and so we're about 40 over there. We actually have 266 Lovejoy scholars, 263 on that day, but that's how many Lovejoy scholars that we have in there. Also looking at enrollment as a district, and one thing that we talk about, Lovejoy Child, and this is ADA, this is average daily attendance, because I know sometimes that can get confused. Enrollment at the Lovejoy Child Development Center, we actually have 83 children there, but some of those are tuition paid, you know, they're daycare students. We have 7 where we actually earn ADA money on, okay? So I wanted to make sure that we do that. And then Hart, 513, Pester, 542, Sloan Creek, 613 Willow Springs, 687 in the high school, 1577, and we usually run about 1,600 at the high school for a total of 3939 there. As we talk about, as we get in and talk about enrollment, I know we always talk about class size, and we want to continue to look at class size. And class size can be very challenging because we also have to work in the ramifications of our budget. And we know that our per pupil allotment has not increased since 2019. We're still getting the 6160. So that has not increased. And this year we adopted a $2.6 million budget. For next year, of course, that will be a $4.6 million budget. So as we explain class sizes, I'm going to...
Deficit?
I'm sorry, deficit. Thank you. Deficit budget, yes. So as we get in and talk about class sizes, you can kind of see how that impacts some of our enrollment. At the high school, our class size average, and these are more core classes, of course is not band, athletics, those types of classes, but core classes, the average is about 25. And mainly because we do have some classes, CTE or specialty classes, Chinese, that are a little bit lower that helps offset that. We usually look at the course load for teachers and what they would have overall, because we may have kids that want to get their elective, and so we might have a class that might be 28, we might have a class that might be 20, but when we look at overall class size at the high school, we are definitely around 25 there. At Willow Springs, our average is a little bit higher. Well, first let me say, at the high school and for secondary level, back in March at the board workshop, we had talked about class sizes, and we knew that we were going to have to increase class sizes at all grade levels. That was part of our budget discussion. And at secondary, we were hoping to stay between 26 and 28 there, students at that March workshop. So at Willow Springs, we're at 27. We do have, some of those asterisks include, we do have aides in the classrooms, and we also have teacher residents and student teachers that also are helping out. Remember, if you recall, our residents are paid student teaching. They're with us for a year. So we have some that will be graduating in December, and then we brought in more this year. And we pay those through a grant that we receive there. At Sloan Creek, once again, we have 26 and 28 in class sizes. There, we do have some classes that are larger. We have in 2 of those classes, or several of those classes, we've hired a aide that goes in as a certified teacher. She has quite a bit of training in gifted and talented, and she goes in and supports those classes. And then we also have teacher residents in classes to support those that are somewhat higher. At Hart, and something else that gets a little bit challenging with kindergarten, we do kindergarten roundup in the spring, but it tends that we don't have as big of an enrollment until we get into the summer. We tried this past year, early summer, I don't know if any of you have kindergartners, but we were trying to send out emails and getting scheduling for pre-testing and those types of things with teachers, so we could also look at our enrollment there. We did add a teacher at kindergarten at Hart, and just so that you're aware, I believe last year our kindergarten numbers at Hart were lower. I think we had 87 kindergartners, so we only had 4 teachers. Now we're at 96, and we have 5 teachers. We actually have a teacher resident in that grade level too. First grade, we have teacher resident there. We are monitoring that, because if that continues to increase, we'll definitely talk about adding a classroom teacher there in that grade level. We would ask for waivers, and I'm going to talk a little bit about waivers. Waivers only apply to pre-K through 4th grade. So that is where there is where the state talks about a 22-to-1 ratio, student-to-teacher ratio, and we would look at waivers in some of those classes that are over 22 there as we talk through that. Puster, once again, kindergarten. You can see in kindergarten we have 89 students. We actually thought that we were only going to have 3 classes make, because last year we had 75 kids, so we just weren't sure with kindergarten. So we're up from 75, about 14 students. Total kindergartners across the district, we're up 23, which is 1 full teacher. But at 89 students, 88 is 22-to-1, so we're 1 over, and so that is why we would ask for a waiver in 1 classroom, and also looking at financial impact of that 1 student to add another teacher in that classroom there. So anything over 22 we would be asking for. When we talk about class waivers, this is what the state says. A district must submit a request for a class size exemption for any classroom in pre-kindergarten through 4th grade that exceed the 22 students class size limit. A district seeking an exemption must notify the commissioner and apply for the exemption not later than the October 1st or the 30th day after the first day the district exceeds the limit. And usually I do that after Labor Day, that weekend, because sometimes you have a little bit more enrollment there. It does not apply to physical education classes or fine arts classes. Interesting enough, the commissioner does consider, like, we have to put a reason of why we're asking for this waiver. And so it says the commissioner will consider such things as an anticipated enrollment growth, lack of facilities, lack of teachers, or financial hardships. So when I apply for the waivers, I will put financial hardships as the reason that we're applying for these, just due to that deficit budget there. Okay. We do look at, we do look at considerations when we need to ask for a waiver or ask for another classroom teacher. We look at, our student resident supports. How many supports do we have? How many will we have come in January? We still have a grant that we can work with, and some money's there. So we look at that. We also look at student needs, and we look at the number of special education students we might have in the classroom, discipline concerns, student performance, any type of learning loss. We'll look at those. We look at disruption of student schedules. If we were to add a class right now, would we want to disrupt the classroom? So do we add another teacher? Do we pull kids out of a class? Or do we do a push-in program to support students? So those are some things that we definitely want to look at. It may depend on if it's mid-year. It may depend in March. We would never do something but we want to do what's best for our kiddos. We talk with our administrators too, and this kind of goes in with that highly qualified applicant. Many times they'll say, I don't want to add anyone else right now. I'm comfortable with the staff that I have and with my current teachers and their qualifications. We will put out things that looking for highly qualified applicants before we just hire anyone. We're not here to get a warm body. We're here to get someone that is qualified to teach students at the level that we expect here in Lovejoy. So I want to make sure that we do that there. And then, of course, we also look at financial impact. For example, the 89, where we would probably not find a highly qualified for that one teacher, but financial impact there. Questions for me?
I have a quick question on the second slide where it talks about enrollment same time previous years.
Yes.
It was unusual to me, but hopefully you can shed some light. In the 22-23 school year, from the first day to the 5th day, we increased 15 in enrollment. The next year we increased 27 in enrollment. and then this year we declined 10 in enrollment. Is there any?
I think something that's probably changed a little bit, and that usually is what happened, is, we do have kids, or I know our staff enrollment is down because our staff's aging up. And so I think that is somewhat of an impact there, because we went from 230 to 190 as far as staff enrollment there. And that was a bigger jump than we're used to there. But specifically, we're just not sure.
So did 10 kids unenroll out of the district?
So basically, 10 kids were no-shows. So basically, they did not show up. That is what we call no-shows. So they do not count, or they're not absent. You can't be absent if you have not been enrolled one day here. So if you haven't attended one day, you weren't here. So there were no-shows. Good question.
I have a question on the scope of what the board is approving today. Are we approving the select ones that you have noted as a waiver? Or are we approving a blanket waiver for any future class?
So basically, the resolution would give a blanket waiver, and the reason is because I have 30 days to ask for another one. So for instance, last year it was approved, I only had to ask one time because last year needed 5 waivers, and we did not grow much at all, because typically in this district, we don't grow as much. It's not as large, so we don't grow. So what I usually do is I ask for a resolution. We submit the waivers at the very beginning, and we do most of them then. And then every 30 days, I do a calendar invite, and I check every class size to see if another one is needed. If another one, year before, I did add a couple in the spring. You also don't have to add them the last 12 weeks of school, or
Okay.
ask for them.
So if it was anything additional than what was on these slides, 30 days from now, the board would be
If I did not ask for a resolution, correct.
Okay.
If I ask for a resolution, I inform everyone anyway, because we send parent notices home to parents as those waivers are approved, and we tell them exactly what the class number is in that class at that specific time. So I would notify you, and I would also notify parents. That's part of our process.
But is it correct that from the state of Texas perspective on funding, they're funding those pre-K 4 classes at 22 to 1? Or not pre-K, but K through 4, they're funding them at 22 to 1.
Well, that's what they think they are. It's a per pupil, so it's not maybe specifically. No.
All right, any other questions on the presentation?
At this time, the administration,
Yeah, we'll move on to item 16.
Okay,
If there's no
sorry.
questions, we'll move on to item 16, no problem. Consider an act on the class size exemption resolution, which, Julie, I think questions made it clear that we're given authority to apply for these waivers as needed throughout the year, so that we don't have to come back and approve it each time.
so we are recommending approval of the class size exemption waiver resolution.
As we count now, it looks like there's 5. On these slides, it would reflect that there's 5.
Actually, there's not. There's actually, because it's per class, it's not per grade, it's per class. So there's, I believe, there would be 17 at Hart and 3 at Puster.
Okay.
Is that, because you asked it per
This
class?
is the average.
It's per class, that's the average, that's correct.
I mean, I understand the wisdom of the resolution, but I do think it's a concern of mine that we continue to support the teachers with reasonable class sizes. So I would hope that we can continue to have updates.
Yes,
to the board on that.
definitely. And, also remember, it's enrollment it's always a challenge, because we never know exactly how many are going to be there that very first day. So it is a continued challenge. We do some things to continue to support our teachers and have those discussions with our administrators.
I would say one of our primary concerns is that the limitations on state funding are putting us in a difficult position when we think about teacher support and class sizes. So I very much agree with your statement.
Mhm.
Any other questions? If not, I would consider a motion.
I make the motion that we approve the class size exemption waiver resolution.
So moved, Jeff Wood.
Second.
Second, Mark Wheelis. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 17, consider an act on the educational services contract with Behavioral Network Group. Dr. Tinsley?
Yes, I'm bringing forward approval, requesting the board approve that we engage in a contract with a center called Behavior Network, which is an approved TEA vendor that to support one of our students. This is a day school that we feel like would best be suited for the student, and so what I'm asking you to do is to approve that we move forward with this contract.
Any questions for Dr. Tinsley?
No, more of a comment. Just I appreciate the opportunity to have discussed this with legal counsel, just given the sensitivity and out of respect for both parties. And I support the recommendation that we support the ARD committee's recommendation on placement. And therefore, I move that we adopt the administration recommendation for this contract.
So moved, Julie McLaughlin.
Second.
Second, Jason James. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. If you want to stay up there, you're up next with cabinet reports, curriculum and instruction, and MCCU grand opening.
Okay, so you all have been hearing about this for several months, about the partnership we've engaged in with my community credit union. And this is a first for MCCU to have a partnership as this. So we have a new branch that has been completed over at Lovejoy High School. It's upstairs across from the library. And we have the official grand opening scheduled for this coming Friday at 10 o'clock. And we want to invite you and our community to come out for this. This is a branch that is serving our students and our staff here. And we have students that are working within the branch, and they're being trained as we speak. And also, part of the partnership is that it's also to expand our financial literacy beyond Lovejoy High School through our other additional campuses too. So just wanted to lift that up, and we're super excited about this partnership.
Thank you.
Good evening again. So for the finance updates, we have a couple of things to share. So a few years back, the district engaged a law firm, Purdue Brandon, to conduct a property value study audit annually to see if there was opportunities to recover any district property tax collection or state funding. This was aligned to our strategic plan for financial sustainability of exploring opportunities to increase our revenue. And this engagement has proved successful over the past 3 years. They have recovered over $332,000 of funding over the past 3 years, and most recently, their most recent audit for the 22 tax year, they were able to recover $105,000. Another bullet point that we have the auditors that will be on site starting on Monday, August 26th, so we're anxious to kick off that work and get that going. Another update that we had for our budget assistance this year, right before school started, we wanted to ensure that they were prepared going into the new year, so we held a training right before school started. Here's a couple of photos of our Director of Budget and Accounting delivering some purchasing requirements, but then also we've trained our staff on how to navigate. So we have a new credit card program, as we shared in June. So we've been able to successfully get that rolled out. We do have several of our recurring utility bills set up on our credit card. So we use this time to really help them navigate the website, how to pull the reports and submit their request for payments and tying it back to their purchase request. And then here we want to celebrate our student nutrition staff, kicking off the first few days and weeks of school. Here we just see them continuously working hard to prepare the meals and serve the meals to our students. We are down we do have 6 unfilled positions. Even with the 6 unfilled positions, our staff come in with a smile and provide the meals for our students and do the best they can to brighten their days. But we are very hopeful that we will fill the 6 positions. This would provide, especially our secondary schools, with additional lines that we can open and also provide additional meal opportunities for our secondary schools. That is all I have. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, for our Human Resources and Communications update, we do have some current open positions. We are looking for a middle school reading language arts teacher at Willow Springs. We have made an offer at our high school for aerospace engineering teacher. That's our one of our CTE pathways. We find LinkedIn, we can actually, we get some applications and through some good qualified applicants there. Electrician, of course, I know Kyle is looking for this time of year an HVAC technician. I think everyone probably is. Bus drivers, monitors, custodians, child nutrition staff, aides, and guest educators. So we do have some positions we still need to fill, and we encourage if you know anyone or could recommend. I know some of you may have family members that would love to sub. Yes, for high school aerospace engineering teacher, yeah. We have made an offer there, yeah, so.
Good evening. So I would like to briefly kind of give everybody a quick update on district support services here in the district now that we've completed successfully day 8 of the current school year. Our transportation team, just to give you guys a quick update, we're currently 5 drivers short and 1 bus monitor. And so the team over in transportation is doing an outstanding job of taking the resources that they have and making sure that they're doing everything they can to take care of kids. With that said, we're going to continue doing some route and stop evaluations over the first 2 to 3 weeks of school. We really have to look through the lens of rider density, safety, and efficiency. And so we'll continue to make adjustments where we see that they're necessary, but obviously the end goal here is to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to safely transport to and from. We've got a wait list right now of about 60 students that we'd like to be able to put on route. But right now with the resources, we're holding on that wait list. So just to give you a quick update on that. From a safety and security standpoint, we've already have several campuses that have kicked off and completed their first round of drills for the semester. We had some as recently as today, and taking advantage of the less hot temperatures this morning for some evacuation drills. But our staff and our students have really kicked off and embraced our safety and security protocols and training. Our teachers have done a phenomenal job during these first 8 days to really establish those protocols and those safety standards there in the classroom so that it will be second nature for our students if and when they need to initiate those protocols. Maintenance, grounds, and custodial, as Ms. Koenig mentioned, HVAC is always a hot topic, no pun intended there, but we just ask for patience. We do have a long list of items that we're working through, and our guys are really being deliberate, and we're really working from those classrooms outward. And so we're trying to take care of kiddos and teachers first, and then we work backwards from that. But we've got work orders. A lot of those are HVAC related. And then irrigation is another one that we're really trying to be intentional about around the district, especially up and around our foundations. So we'll continue to work through that as we deal with the heat and the dry weather. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
A couple of bus questions.
You bet.
So whenever we're short 5 bus drivers, how does that get managed?
So there's a lot of shifting, and so you take a route and you look to see, well, it kind of goes back to that rider density that I mentioned earlier. So if you have bus A that's over in one quadrant of the district and they have capacity to hold an extra 15, and so you try to go and sweep portions of what a route used to be, and you condense as much as you can, but you finally reach that point where you can condense no more, and that's kind of where we're at. We've got drivers that are going and they'll pick up an entire, essentially an entire route, take them to school, and then double back. And so those students really aren't getting to school on time, or they may not get home when they should be, which then impacts the next tier for dismissal, which is typically going to be the middle school and the high school. So it kind of has a chain reaction both in the AM and the PM.
Is our bus ridership higher than last year? You may not know this, so don't feel obligated.
It's about the same. Now, what I don't know is what our wait list looked like last year, this time, 8 days in, but today it's 60.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, good evening. We're going to go into our Student Services Cabinet Report. Tonight we'll be talking about athletics, fine arts, and attendance updates. First off, just wanted to get everyone up to speed on the exciting things that are going on at Fine Arts. Theater had their welcome back party. Band and Color Guard had a parent preview concert followed up by their ice cream social. Orchestra had their back to school picnic last Saturday. I was able to go out there. They started with pizza and some games about London, where their future spring trip is going to, and then they ended with some kind of team building over there at Lucas Farmers Market. Choir had their parent-student meet and greet. We're very excited about Mr. Harris. The feedback on him has been wonderful, and the kids are excited to perform soon. Lovejoy Visual Arts and our art teachers and our gallery. On September 25th, there'll be work displayed from the AP Studio Summer Assignment Critique, and that's a project that they kind of collaborate on now when they come back, and then they'll be going over those things in the gallery, and they'll be available for you to see. Pre-year preparation for cheer is very, very important from a leadership standpoint, and so our whole cheerleading squad recently attended the National Cheerleaders Association Leadership Camp, and our Majestic officers went to a leadership camp as well, and they'd been doing summer drill throughout the summer. And then really just want to give a shout out and thank our fine arts programs for the just outstanding job that they did in front of our whole district at Convocation when we started the year. Really, really good. Next up, defending state champions, both boys and girls cross country. They recently had a 2-mile meet in Rock Hill on August 16th at the Rock Hill meet. And then their first really big meet that they're preparing for is August 31st, and that's their first 5K against at the Flower Mound Marcus meet. Coach Littlefield and Coach Kelly, we were able to honor them at Celebration Park last Wednesday, and so the runners came up and were able to sit and listen to us as we were able to go over their awards for different national and state cross-country organizations that they were in. It was really special. August 13th, really just like our volleyball team always does, they lost a close game against Wakeland, and then August 15th went into their first tournament of the year at the Rockwall tournament and were able to defeat numerous 6A teams and ended up getting third in a very competitive tournament. And so they were able to do that this last weekend. On the football front, August 22nd, we have our Rock Hill scrimmage. Varsity will go on last about 7 p.m. The sub-varsities will start before them at Leopard Stadium. And then August 30th, we have our first non-district, so our first home game against Lubbock Cooper. And we'll circle back on that August 30th date down below. Tennis, we were able to get an update from Coach Denham. Great start to the year in preseason, very, very competitive, and they went to West Texas for tournaments. Preseason overall, we were 11-4, and then our first district match is actually tomorrow against Anna at home. We start district play in tennis. And then to circle back on that August 30th date, at halftime, we will be presented the Lone Star Cup from the UIL executive director that evening during the halftime show. So very excited about that. And then behind the scenes, but also you're seeing some communication with our stakeholders through our campus newsletters. When you think about our attendance practices from a compulsory attendance in Lovejoy ISD, been spending a lot of time with different PEAM staff as well as our campus administrators, and then doing some work with our teachers regarding just our proactive, ongoing, reactive communication strategies when it comes to ensuring our students are here. And the theme that you'll see this year, when we talk about student attendance, we really want our students here so they're safe with us and so they're learning. And as you'll see the words that are underlined in this slide, we relate attendance to that sense of belonging back to school and to our 5 pillars in Lovejoy ISD. And so a lot of work behind the scenes to ensure our practices are aligned. We do have a Student Services Resource Center in there, is probably a 20-plus page comprehensive attendance plan that vertically we're all aligned on, and we're excited to see what that does for us, and obviously that last bullet point right there from attendance and results. Thank you.
A little comment on the cross-country. So you should put a step tracker on your track coaches because they're at the middle of the course, and then they beat the kids to the end. Then they go back to the middle for the next group, and they're at the end, and they're back to the middle, and they're at the end. I don't know how many miles they run, but those kids all know halfway and at the end, those coaches are seeing them and cheering them on.
Yeah.
And so it was quite interesting.
Yeah, I think Coach Littlefield could be in our top 5 for sure for the cross country. So.
Funny comment on that. The first cross-country meet I went to 3 years ago, nobody told me that. So I got in my car afterwards and I took Advil. I had no idea. I thought I was going to watch cross-country. I didn't think I was getting to participate on a level.
Thank you. So you kept up with Coach Littlefield? All right, item 19 is our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. We had an excellent start to the school year on August 8th. There is nothing better than seeing our kindergartners so excited to start school and then going over to our loved tradition of senior breakfast and senior walk. It was truly a great morning, and I want to thank all the staff and educators and parents who worked so hard to make sure that our students had an excellent experience on the first day. I also want to recognize the efforts that everyone is taking to provide our students, continue to provide our students an excellent experience despite extreme funding challenges. It has meant a lot of flexibility, a lot of creative thinking, but we have made a shared commitment to not let that rob us of the day-to-day joys of working with children and also the opportunities that we can create by being innovative and thinking outside the box. We saw some of those this evening, the MCCU partnership. We saw it with the senior project as well. So we are going to continue that commitment to pursue excellence, serve others, and have a ton of fun while we do it. I do have a few things that we are hoping to get our parents' support and help on. We need parents, and you saw this in the newsletter on Friday, to make sure that we all have conversations with our children about if you know something or you see something that is important to the safety of yourself or others, to make sure that you are sharing that with a trusted adult. Let your parent know, let your teacher or a school administrator know. That is so important. Also, attendance. If our students aren't here, they cannot learn. So being at school is very important. Unless you're sick. If you're sick, stay home, because we don't want other people to get sick and have to not be at school. And then cell phones. We are making sure we have a heightened level of focus on cell phones because they are a distractor to learning. and to the kind of exemplary behavior that we want in our schools. And so parents, if you could have some conversations about cell phone usage and the focus that needs to happen on learning when you are at school. And I know our principals are going to be sharing some more information about that in the coming month.
Thank you for those updates, Ms. Cordell. Next item is public comments related to non-agenda items. No comments this evening and no announcements. With that, we would be adjourned.